Here, we'll put it really close. My wife is a teacher, and she has a teacher voice, and I didn't have that, and so I'm still working on it. But hey, welcome everybody. We are glad that you're here. Thank you for coming out and for having breakfast with us. We know it's tight quarters, and I just thank you for being flexible and working with us. Real quick before we start, did somebody lose a phone? Check pockets. It belongs to somebody. Okay. I'm going to pass it this way if you get into it. Thank you. There we go. We've got an owner. Awesome. Well, it is our hope and goal with our men's ministry here that we provide opportunities for men of all generations to interact with one another. We believe very strongly that we are all on a journey of grace, and that it's important for us not only to be on this journey, but not to walk it alone. And so there are men here all over this room that are on the same journey that you're on. And so we are glad that you're here. We hope that today the Lord speaks to you through Darrell, that you leave this place this morning not only feeling uplifted, but hopefully you leave here closer with Jesus than when you arrived. And that's our hope and our goal. At this time, I'm going to invite Kent Schellenberger up. Kent approached me a little while ago and said, hey, there's a speaker that I think would be a great speaker for a men's breakfast. And he would fit very well with the time that we're in right now, and that is March Madness season. And I've had a few people ask me about my sweatshirt. By the way, I'm from Iowa. I come by it honestly. I'm not a bandwagon fan. So I got to give out a go Hawks. We're in the Elite Eight. We're playing Illinois tonight. But this is March Madness. We're going to talk some basketball today. But Ken, introduce us to our speaker.
Okay, thank you, Ken. And welcome to the BFC ministry. Wow, this is a great group, and we're thankful that you're here. And we look forward to Darrell's message. We will be empowered, and we will be challenged, and you can cry a little bit, laugh a little bit. I promise you, you'll go away from here, and you will really be empowered by what Darrell has to say. At the end, after Darrell finishes speaking, Coach Gary Bowles will come up and close us out. He will give some directions on the book. You see a book at each table, and you also see a QR code where we will talk about that, and then he will pray for us, and then unless Pastor Harvey or Ken has any more announcements, we are excited about having my good friend Darrell Johnson. And Darrell and his brother Phil is here. We're honored to have Phil. Darrell, this is sort of a homecoming. Darrell graduated from Putnam City High School in 1972, just a couple of miles away from here. He played on what many consider the greatest high school team in the history of Oklahoma. They had an average winning margin of 27 points. They won the state championship. And there was another good player that I'll let him tell you about that you might recognize his name that played on that team. And they're good friends, and they remain good friends today. After Darrell graduated from Putnam City, he went to Tulsa University for 3 years. And then we were fortunate, and Dr. Gresham and others had the fortunate relationship with Darrell, and Darrell came to BFC Southern Nazarene, finished out his senior year at Southern Nazarene. After he finished his collegiate career, he went overseas, played 2 years, and then he came back to Oklahoma, coached Oklahoma High School basketball, coached at Ada, won a state championship. He then was fortunate enough to go to Oklahoma State University. Paul Hansen was the head coach and really a mentor of Darrell's, and he recruited Darrell to help coach and be an assistant. While at Oklahoma State, they won a Big 8 championship. Now, you don't hear that much from OSU winning a Big 8 championship, but Darrell can say that he was part of the staff that won a Big 8 championship. After OSU, he was the head coach at Oklahoma Baptist University. Are they still playing? They got beat. And then after OBU, he went to Oklahoma City University, where he won 2 national championships back-to-back, a record of 73-3. And then He went to Baylor University, a D1 head men's basketball coach at Baylor. And Darrell will tell you later, he had it all, and then he lost it all. And that's a lot of the story that we will be empowered by. After Baylor, Darrell was fortunate enough to get back into high school coaching, and he'll talk a little bit about that. He won 2 state championships down in Texas. He also, during that time, he became an NBA professional scout for 20 years. At the beginning of his career in NBA scouting, he hooked up with a guy you may have heard of named Michael Jordan. They went together, the Charlotte Bobcats. And then at the back end of his NBA career, I'll let him tell how Oklahoma City received Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. We all know who that is. And Darrell had a little bit of influence in that trade that Oklahoma City has him. After all the accolades, Coach of the Year, Hall of Fame, after everything that Darrell accomplished, that's just part of his resume. The main part of Darrell's resume and his bio is his walk with Christ. And that's why we're here today, to hear that. Him and his wife, Beth, are active members of Life Church, where they lead life groups, where they're involved with life groups, and he's involved with ministry there. And Darrell recently had the great fortune of having a granddaughter born in October, and even in that story, Christ was involved, and faith and perseverance, and there's a lot that was in the birth of his granddaughter, McKinley. But you'll be challenged, and you will be rewarded by being here. And let's turn it over and welcome Coach Darrell Johnson.
Well, thank you for that, Kent. I'm no better friend than Ken Shelburne, so when he invited me, I pretty much do whatever he tells me to do. So that's why I'm here, is because he said come, and so I'm here. But I am honored to be here with you. I'm one of you guys. I grew up a couple of miles from here. I grew up in Oklahoma City. I still live in Oklahoma City area, and went to Putnam City. Was a graduate in 1973. He had me a year older. And then graduated from Bethany Nazarene College in 1977. Absolutely. And I had transferred from the University of Tulsa. And my very first contact at BNC was Dr. Lauren Gresham. He was sitting in the stands, and I came and talked to him, and he was an assistant coach at the time. And we became very good friends, and he advised me later on, which I didn't listen to him, and that was my misfortune, among other things. But he's one of the guys that I have a huge amount of respect for. And there's a lot of friends in this room. My brother here, thanks for coming, Phil. A lot of good friends, a lot of friendly faces, and I can't introduce everybody because we'd be here all day. But thank you for being here. I am honored to be with you. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the book, and I didn't come here to sell books, but it is a passion of mine. It's only a game, it's a memoir, and it took me only about 30 years to write it. And so, but I'll tell you that it's from the heart, and it's a faith-based book disguised as a sports book. And so it crosses over very much into, there's a lot of NBA stories in there, there's a lot of college basketball stories in there, but at the end of the day, it's also about our spiritual walk and our faith in that journey. So a couple of things that I want to mention also about this, the book, is that I'm real involved with a couple of charitable organizations. One of them is called 17 Ministries. Kent's involved also, and some of the others, Gary Bands also. 17 Ministries is a group of retired coaches that have given their lives to serving young people and kids through the years, and kind of maybe got to a stage of life where they don't feel valued as much as they once were and once felt. And so they have several chapters: Ardmore, Ada, Oklahoma City, Edmond, Tulsa, all over the state. And they have luncheons once a week, and they have speakers come in. And it's a very viable, and I think helpful organization. And the proceeds from this book, a large part, are going to 17 ministries. And then the other one is a group called WTL Adventures, which I am the president and chairman of the board of WTL Adventures, which WTL is the way, the truth, the life. And it's a group that is patterned and modeled after the True North ministry. We take 6 or 7 retreats a year, and it's designed for young men or old men that may be struggling with their faith or struggling with difficult times and obstacles, and leading them to a closer relationship with God. And so the other part of the proceeds from this book will go to WTL Ministries. So I don't get anything for it, but Gary's going to talk about how to get it. There's a copy on your table. There's also a QR code, and I'd like for you to buy the book. It's on Amazon. I can tell you this, that a couple of months ago we were doing, Amazon has their own analytics and algorithms and that sort of thing. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the publishing journey, which is daunting. And so when I decided to write this book, everybody said, this will never work because you're a debut author. You've never published before. Your story, the simple story, is 30 years old, and you've got no experience here, so it'll never go. You're going to have to self-publish or pay to publish, which there's nothing wrong with that at all. I chose not to. And so I got a lot of no's through the process of, no, you're too old, your story's too old, you don't know what you're doing. And until I found one boutique, small, faith-based publisher in Springfield, Ohio, that took the time to read the manuscript. That's the hard part, is getting them to actually read the manuscript. They read it, they said, we think this is a hit. And 2 months ago on Amazon has 44 million titles. 44 million books that you can go online and buy at any given time. And about 2 months ago, we were 14.
Whoa.
So it has resonated, and I take no credit for that. And I think that's the reason it resonates, is because I take no credit for that. So why am I here today? Well, because Ken invited me, but also it's because I have a story. All of you have a story, and I'd love to hear your story, but mine's a little different. It seems to resonate, mostly because I think, in some ways, it's every man's story. What sets mine apart is that it's extremely unique and unprecedented. And I'm also, what differentiates it, I think, is that I'm pretty sure I'm the only person in this room that's been fired by Michael Jordan. I think I'm probably the only person here that's ever been indicted by a federal grand jury for recruiting basketball players. And then thirdly, I'm the only guy in the room, I'm quite sure, that was in an NBA front office that traded Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to the Oklahoma City Thunder. And yes, you're welcome. And a little bit of story. Shai, I was involved in drafting Shai. He was a freshman at the University of Kentucky. We had the number 12 pick in the draft. I was with the Los Angeles Clippers. We had the number 12 pick in the draft. 11 teams passed on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. 11, that's almost over a third of the NBA said no thanks. So we were the first team to raise our hand and say, yeah, we want the guy. And so he came in, and he was a good player, averaged about 8 or 9 points a game, I think, as a rookie. And then we had a chance to bolster our roster because we had a chance to get 2 of the top 3 rated players in the NBA. One of them was Kawhi Leonard, who was a free agent, was the most valuable player in the NBA. They had just won a world championship in Toronto. But in order for us to get Kawhi, he was an unrestricted free agent. In order for us to get him, he wanted to play with Paul George, who was with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, the Thunder were dismantling. They were a bad team at the time. They had lost all their good players, and Paul wanted out. He's an LA guy. He wanted to get so anyway. We had to give him like 100 draft picks and Shea Gilgeous-Alexander to get Paul George, so we could get Kawhi Leonard. That's how that came down. And for our efforts, our general manager Lawrence Frank was named Executive of the Year in the NBA. Man, we just fleeced Oklahoma City. It doesn't look so great now, does it? So that's kind of what sets me apart, I think. And one of the things that I've learned is the culture is different now in basketball, especially college basketball, because, you know, we've always valued players, but now we pay them. Now they're getting paid. And I can remember when I was coaching at Baylor, I had a player by the name of Jerome Lambert, led the nation in rebounding, and he was valuable. But there's a lot of times, and I think Phil will tell you this too, that a lot of times your best players are kind of high maintenance. And he was a high maintenance guy. I remember a game we had where we had 2 technicals, and we lost the game. He lost the game by 1 point. Went in the locker room after the game. I just threw a fit. I said, Jerome, pack your bags. I want you out of here. You're never going to play for the Baylor Bears again. I want you out on that bus tomorrow. And I walk out and tell my assistant, make sure he doesn't leave town. We played Texas the next day at Texas, and his punishment, Jerome, I let him back on the team. His punishment was he did not get to be team captain that night. It's his punishment. And he hits a shot at the buzzer, and we beat Texas on the road the next night. So, understanding the value of players. There was a legendary coach at the University of Georgia named Hugh Darrell. Coach Gresham knows who I'm talking about. He had a good run, but he also had a great player by the name of Dominique Wilkins. Now, Dominique Wilkins, most of you know, is in the Hall of Fame. Played in the NBA. They're playing Georgia Tech the next day. It's a rivalry game, biggest game of the year for him. And he says, okay, you guys, you got a curfew tonight, 11 o'clock. And understand, we're going to check the dorms. At 11 o'clock, we're going to be in your room checking. Make sure you're in bed. Next day, his assistant comes to him and he says, Coach, Dominique wasn't there. And they're playing Georgia Tech. He said he and a walk-on were out till 3 o'clock in the morning partying. He goes, oh my gosh. He said, all right, call him in. So he calls in this walk-on and Dominique, and he's getting ready to read him the riot act, and he looks at the walk-on and he says, young man, you're done with your tech. Pack your bags, clean out your locker, you're finished. And Dominique, let that be a lesson to you. Knew the value of good players. A little background, I played in Putnam City, where we also had good players. We didn't know it at the time, but I played in the same school at the same time. We had Steve Largent, Pro Football Hall of Fame, Alvin Adams, Rookie of the Year in the NBA, still, to this day, the leading rebounder in Suns history. We had Bob Shirley, pitched for the Yankees for 12 years. Pat Ryan, quarterback the New York Jets for a decade. Tony Brantley, who was the backup for Joe Montana at Notre Dame. I mean, these are all guys at the same school at the same time. We had no idea how good we were. We were just a bunch of goofy kids. And then I had signed after my senior year with the University of Tulsa, as Ken said. And my college career is very unremarkable, but there was one defining moment. And I'm going to tell you real quickly about that because we're playing Oral Roberts. If you don't know, Oral Roberts and Tulsa is a big rivalry game. And it was the same year that they'd opened the Navy Center. So, nice facility. There's 11,000 ORU fans at this game. It's packed. It's standing room only. They're in the aisles. And the game comes down to the last 10 seconds. We're down 1, we've got the ball, 10 seconds, we run a play for me. So I get the ball into the basket, go up, foul, shoot 2 free throws. We're down 1. I got a chance to win the game for Tulsa with 11,000 people. So I go up to the free throw line, bounce a couple of times. The ball hits the back of the rim, goes straight up, comes down, rolls off. Miss the free throw. Oral Roberts calls timeout. We go over there and they're trying to ice the free throw shooter. And I'm sitting there, I got one free throw to put this game in overtime. And I'm sitting there at the huddle during timeout, and I look over my left shoulder, and there I see it. I see the man himself, Dr. Oral Roberts, the most famous TV evangelist in the world. And Oral is standing up, and he's praying. What's he praying? Is he praying for me to miss this free throw? And so then I look over my other shoulder, and there painted on the floor in big red letters it says, "Expect a miracle." And I'm like, a miracle for who? So I go to the free throw line, miss my second free throw, we lose the game, and that's the most defining moment of my college career. which when you're 19 years old, that's tough. That's tough to get over. And I thought through 19 years of life, that was the hardest moment of my life. And I thought it always would be, but it wasn't. And I'm going to talk about that in just a second. So I started coaching. I went to England for a while and played in Manchester and professionally, and great experience. And then I came back and started coaching. Started my coaching career at Hefner Junior High. And then after that, for a year, went to Putnam City North, and that's where I hooked up with Ken Schellenberger. We were both assistants at Putnam City North, and we became really good friends. And then I became the head coach at Ada. And at North, we went to the state tournament. We were winning. I didn't really know anything except winning. And I'm not trying to tout or give myself any credit, but we had a lot of success. We had all those players in high school, and then in Tulsa, and then we went to the state tournament at Putnam North, and then I go to Ada High School, we win a state championship, first one in 20 years. Then I go to Oklahoma State, we win the conference championship, go to the NCAA tournament. I thought, this winning thing is easy. And then I go to become my first head coaching job at Oklahoma Baptist, and my first year, we're 10 and 22. Well, okay, that's a fluke. We got everybody back. We'll be better next year. Next year we go 5 and 27. So I'm fighting for my job, and we did turn it around. We got to be a couple of years later #1 in the nation. Then I got the OCU job. Followed Abe Lemons, the legend at Oklahoma City University, great friend, helped me get the job along with Paul Hansen, where we won 56 games in a row, 2 national championships, and when you do that, people notice. And so I started getting Division I calls. Interviewed at Tulsa, was offered a job at Texas State, and then came Baylor. And I'm thinking, I'm on a 56-game winning streak. Why would I want to stop? Why would I want to leave? I remember going to my pastor. I grew up Baptist. And I went to my pastor at Nichols Hills Baptist Church. And I said, Pastor, I got a chance to go to Baylor, the largest Baptist institution in the world, or I can stay and defend this 56-game winning streak. And I said, Preacher, I just want to go where God is. And he looked at me and he said, Son, go where the money is, because God's everywhere. So I'm at Baylor. And we had it going. It was a great time to go into Baylor because they just had 4 straight losing seasons. Gene Iva had been fired, and we went in there. We got going. We had 2 straight winning seasons. We had a ranked recruiting class. We led the nation in attendance. And the money. You think about coaches today making money. It wasn't that great, but we were making a lot of money back in those days. You had your own TV show, radio shows, country club memberships. My camps were overflowing. Everything was going great. We led the nation in increased attendance. I was the toast of the town. Everything was wonderful until it wasn't. Because in 1995, for the first time in the history of the NCAA, a major college basketball coach was indicted by a federal grand jury over recruiting and eligibility of players, and that head coach was me. So the next day, after the indictment was handed down, and I was charged with 7 felony counts, I was fired by bailiff. This became the largest national sports story in 1995. It was on every possible media outlet. The humiliation, the shame was enormous. And so I spent the next year of my life trying to defend myself, thinking, this is the game that I love. I love this game more than life itself. This game, I say in the book, had become my mistress. I gave all my attention, all my efforts, all my thoughts to this game that I loved so much, and now it was gone. I got a lifeline. I was offered a job in Oklahoma City with the Oklahoma City Cavalry. You remember those guys? Minor league basketball team? I said no. I went to my president. I said, hey, I got a chance to take care of my family. If you're going to fire me, do it now. Fired me 2 weeks later after the job was gone. So I spent the next year going through deposition, interrogatories, witness statements, trying to defend myself until about a year later, after the story had gone national. I can remember sitting in my living room watching Tom Brokaw on nightly news. Scandal in Waco, Texas was the lead story. And during that time of preparing for my case, my wife filed for divorce. I had a 4-year-old little boy. So I lost, and I can tell you I had a team of attorneys that were excellent. They were so good, but they were very expensive, as you can imagine. So all the money was gone. The family was gone. The reputation was gone. The income was gone. The job was gone. The career was gone. And I felt like that I had lost everything. The biggest loss, though, was not any of that. The biggest loss was I had lost my team. And I had lost the love of my life, which was this game. So for the next year, we go through preparing for this trial. It goes to trial with 12 jurors that's going to decide my fate, my future, even my freedom. My brother Phil comes in for the trial. It's right during the Final Four in 1995. You remember that? In 1995, the verdict comes in April, right during the Final Four. And I remember Jim Darrell, my lead attorney, sitting down with me, and he said, I need to explain some things to you. One, on multi-count indictments, there's a 90% conviction rate nationwide. So prepare yourself. And he said, in addition to that, for each count, back in those days, there was mandatory minimums. For each guilty count equated to 5 years in a federal penitentiary. I mean, I've never even had a parking ticket. And here I am fighting for my freedom. I've lost my job, everything else, but now that all becomes secondary. So he was preparing me for the worst. When we got, after a couple of days, we got word that the jury had reached a verdict. We reassembled in the courthouse, and Darrell, my attorney, says, read the jurors when they come in. You'll notice if they're making eye contact, that's a good sign. When they came in, no eye contact. So I was prepared for the worst. And the judge asked the foreman of the jury, have you reached a verdict? Yes, Your Honor, we have. How do you find the defendant? In count one, the United States of America versus Darrell Johnson. In count one, we find the defendant not guilty. In count two, we find the defendant not guilty. In count three, we find the defendant not guilty. In count four, we find the defendant not guilty. In count five, we find the defendant not guilty. In count six, we find the defendant not guilty. In count seven, we find the defendant not guilty. So my attorney Darrell turned to me and he said, first thing out of his mouth, there is a God. and you know, I had become pretty close to God in those days. You can imagine how more passionate and fervent and intense we are in our relationship with God during a crisis. And so I had gotten closer to God. But we had won. So I spent the next year fighting against the NCAA. I'm thinking, I'm going to go coach again. Well, we win against the NCAA. We have to appeal one lack of institutional control. We appeal that. That takes another year. So 2 years of fighting the NCAA, and I win the appeal. They put a show cause requirement on me, which means nobody could hire me for 3 years. Now they lifted that. It's already been 2 years. So the career was over, but I thought maybe I'll get a chance to coach again. I couldn't get a sniff. The damage was done. The reputation was tarnished. The career appeared to be over. My now ex-wife and son moved to Houston to take a job. I moved back to Oklahoma City where I had family. My parents lived here, we had a few friends. Most of my friends had bailed. And most of your friends in coaching are other coaches. And so nobody wants to be perceived as being guilty by association. So they're all gone. So I've lost my friends too, but I come back here and I start dabbling in real estate, but by now the money's gone. I don't have anything. And so I'm just trying to find a new direction. Nobody will touch me in the coaching arena, but I am closer than I've ever been to my Creator. I'm involved in church. I'm going to Sunday school. I'm living a good life. I'm leading a good life. And then I start getting this nudge. I don't know how God talks to us. I don't know that. But I got this nudge, this feeling, this nagging that wouldn't go away. And God is saying to me, I feel, go to Houston and be with your son. I mean, I'm a weekend warrior now. I'm driving up and down the interstate with every other weekend with my son, and he's coming up here, and I've got summers with him, and like some others have done probably in this room. And it's difficult. And I thought, I can't go to Houston. It'll still be the same. I'm still going to see him every other weekend and summers. And so I fought this nudge. Whatever this nudge was, I fought it. I found every possible reason to not go to Houston. I don't know anybody there. I don't have a job there. I don't have income there. And I have no visible means of support. But it wouldn't go away, man. It would not go away. I kept getting this nudge like, I'm not going to let this die. And it was God speaking to me, not audibly, but I knew what I was supposed to do. And that was to go to Houston. For the first time in my life, I was obedient. I said, okay, God, I'm going. I packed up the U-Haul. I headed south. I took out, the only asset I had left was retirement. Cashed in my retirement against advice of my CPA. So now I really had nothing. Bought a house, got down there, and I don't know what I'm going to do. I got no plan. I got no agenda. I got no parachute. I'm just going. I'm going. This is a leap of faith. I'm just going. I had no idea what I was getting into. So I get down there and I'm thinking, I'm just going to try to get a high school job. You know, this is going to be great. This is okay. I'll be close to my son, and I'm going to get a high school job. I interviewed for this little country high school, this 1A job, and in my mind, I'm so overqualified for this. I've got championship pedigree now. So they said, well, we'll come back on Friday and we'll talk about it. We'll talk to you again. So I go for a second interview, and I killed it. I know exactly how to do that. And I killed it. So I'm thinking, all right, you'll hear from us on Monday. I think I've got this job. I'm already looking at the schedule. I'm already thinking, who am I going to hire as an assistant? I get the call on Monday. And I get the proverbial, we're going in a different direction. This was my last hope for this game that I just wanted to be a part of. And I remember that day, walking out in my front yard, dropping to my knees, sobbing, shaking my fist at God, saying, I'm here because of you. I came because of you. You brought me here. I was obedient to you. What do I do now? I've got nothing else. I've got no money. I can't keep the lights on. I've got no support. I've got nothing. My faith was shaken. And finally, after the meltdown, I got back into reality. I said, I don't have nothing. I've got God, and I've got that little boy that just needs his dad. So I slept actually pretty good that night. I had a long talk with God. I prayed. Most of the night I prayed, because I had no plan. You know, and Abe Lincoln once said, you know, in times of crisis, I find myself more and more going to my knees, only because I have nowhere else to go. I have nowhere else to go. So I prayed almost all night, and then slept. Got up, I'm thinking, for the first time in my life, I have surrendered control to my Maker. I got no plan. I got no agenda. I said, God, you're going to have to do this. This is yours. I submit this to you. I don't know what you got. I'll go wash windows. I'll go cut grass. Whatever I got to do. Nothing wrong with that. You got to keep the lights on. You got to pay the bills. But for the first time, I surrendered my life to Christ. The next day, this sounds embellishment. It sounds like embellishment, and it's not. The next day, not the next week or month, the next day, I get a phone call from Kenny Williamson. Kenny Williamson is a scout for the New York Knicks, and he just became the scouting director for the Charlotte Bobcats, which is a new franchise expansion team in the NBA. And he said, hey, we'd like to hire you to go to work for us. I'm going to be an NBA scout. I was trying to get this little 1A job, and all of a sudden I've got the director of scouting from an NBA team calling me on the phone saying, hey, come on, I got something for you here. I said, can I sign up right now? He said, no, I got two contingencies. And these are non-negotiable. He said, one, understand, we're going to work your butt off. And number two, you're going to have to move to Houston. He had no idea that I had already done that. So I spent the next year scouting for the Charlotte Bobcats. Didn't even have a team yet. But we had 2 draft picks. And I thought, well, that'd be a great way to end the story, but it's not, because I'm close to my son. Then I get a call from his school. They invite me to come be the athletic director at his school. I said, I can't do that. I've got an NBA job here. I travel a lot. I'm on a plane about 150 days a year. And I said, we don't care. We think you can do this. So I take the job. So now I'm an NBA scout. I'm the athletic director at my son's school, and I see him every day that I'm at home. And so I do that for a year. And then a year after that, they call me in and they said, hey, we'd like for you to coach our basketball team. I said, there's no way I can do that. I got 2 full-time jobs, and no, we think you can. We're gonna hire a staff for you. And my son was going to the school. He was now a 9th grader, 6'5", a basketball player. 6'5", a 9th grader. So I said, okay, I take the job. So now I'm an NBA scout traveling the world, seeing the top level of basketball in the world after I had been rejected by this little 1A high school. And I'm coaching my son and seeing him every day. And that'd be a great place to end the story. But this team at this little Christian high school had never had a winning season in basketball. We won 2 state championships with my son. The crowning achievement of my basketball career, I can tell you right now, is coaching your son. He played 4 years of college basketball, and I worked 21 years in the NBA with 4 different teams, and in 2024, I retired from this game that I love so much. And so, what did I learn from all of this? What can you learn from all of this? What's the real point of telling that story? It's therapeutic for me to talk about it, because it took me a long time before I could talk about it. But I think also the point that I would make is God has a way of turning pain into purpose. He says in Scripture, you will have troubles. You will have obstacles. You will have difficulties. Not you might. You will. That's one of his promises. You will have hard times, but I will be there with you. The second thing is the understanding and the realization that God's plan is always better than ours. You know, I was so ready and enthused and excited to take this little high school job. And I think so many times we underestimate what we want. And we underestimate God's ability. And God wants the same thing that we want. We're not in competition with God. We're in competition to be in alignment with his will. And so his plan, I could have been perfectly happy at that little high school job. He had better plans. He had bigger plans than what I had. And then the third thing that I learned, and the reason that I'm here, is that one single act of obedience can change the entire trajectory of your life. When I said yes to going to Houston, it changed the entire trajectory of life. Think about what I would have missed had I not said yes. All of those times, 21 years in the NBA, 2 state championships with my son, and fulfilling every dream that I had ever hoped for in this game that I love so much. God honored my obedience. And so, I'm in the 4th quarter now. I'm in the 4th quarter of life. And at the end of my life, I don't want to be known for the stupid things I've done, the bad choices I've made, the bad decisions that I've made, or being indicted by a federal grand jury. I don't want that to be my story. But I don't want my legacy either to be about the championships. I don't want it to be about 21 years in the NBA, personal achievements, accomplishments, awards, coach of the year, some of the things that Kent mentioned. I've had plenty of both. And if you take anything from this story today, I hope and I pray that it's seeing the heart of a fallen man in a fallen world that was saved by the grace and redemption of Jesus Christ.
Amen.
Because at the end of the day, that right there is my ultimate championship. And I thank you for giving me the microphone today and listening to my story. God bless you.
Thank you, Darrell. What a compelling story. A huge part of the providence in my life has been the association that I've had with these two gentlemen right here, Phil and Darrell Johnson, in my time at Putnam City High School. On your table is a book. And if you're not at the table, I'm sorry. You're not going to get in on the action here. Darrell has another chapter to his story that has captivated the interest and the prayer of a lot of folks who know Darrell and Beth and their extended family. His son, Darrell, the birth of his granddaughter, McKinley Jean, suffered a stroke at birth. And I don't know that the Lord's going to help him you're a published author now, so it shouldn't be near as hard to put together another book. But I'm sure that will be a chapter, a standalone portion of his story. And it's a continuation of the faithfulness of God in his life and that of his family. So at your table, this is how we're going to do this. If your birthday, the person whose birthday at the table is closest to October the 8th, that's the day his granddaughter was born, you get the book. Now, if this were a gathering of ladies, we'd have some real nice flowers that you could take home. You get to take home Darrell's book. And when you read it, if you haven't already, you will probably have feelings similar to what my wife did when she read it. She said, I want to throw the book at NCAA. But he goes into much greater detail, obviously, than he did today in this time frame that we had to share. So, also there's a QR code. You can take, I'm thinking, if I understand what QR codes are all about, you can get that on your phone, and then that takes you to Amazon, and you can order your book there. Darrell will stick around for a little while. He does have another obligation a little bit later, but he will stick around. If you already have a book and brought it and want him to sign it, you'd be willing to do that, and whoever the one is that's a good fortune to have the birthday closest to October the 8th, he'll do that.
Got me.
He and Kent, I think, both have a handful of other copies if you'd like to buy one today without
When,
going on
George?
Amazon.
August 1st.
I think they
August.
can accommodate a limited number of folks. You'll have to have cash and or a check. And again, it will go to the 17 ministries and the, it's easier to remember Truth North. What, the Truth? WTL. Those ministries will benefit from your purchase, and you will enjoy the book, and you will want to share it.
He would have
with
won.
other folks.
This is September.
The year was 1970. That year, Darrell turned 15. A ninth grader, like your son Derek. I turned 25 and had just been home from my assignment, permanent duty station overseas as a draftee of the United States Army, and was doing substitute teaching at Central Junior High, Putnam City System. That's where I met Darrell Johnson. And all these years. And then Phil, his younger brother, I had the opportunity to be his junior varsity coach at Putnam City High School. And Phil, by the way, has his own resume, and it's pretty impressive as well. He ended his career as an assistant at UTEP. It's been a period of time at Arizona. It's the team I got winning it all this year, by the way. With Lute Olson as a assistant, and he had a couple of stints at San Jose State as the head coach. So that's a coaching family, and they certainly can understand and relate to the ups and downs of not only individual games, but the speed bumps in life that are associated with that career and that profession. Take heart. This is a story that goes around in coaches' clinics. There's only two kinds of coaches. Those that have been fired and those that are going to get fired. So some of you young people have aspirations of going into that business. Take that with you as you go. Darrell, from walking on water in Waco to a bunch of fellow believers in Bethany, we thank you for sharing your story today. Father, we want to thank you once again for granting us the gift of this day, the light of a new day, the hope of a new day, the promise of a new day, and the promise that through the hardships and the speed bumps of life, in the human experience, that you will be with us and that we will know your peace. We ask in a special way that you would take this message that's been given from the heart today. May we apply the principles that Darrell has shared with us and the truth of his message and the truth and the transparency of his life to help each of us become the person you've created us to be as we walk this walk of faith this week. In your son's name we pray. Amen.
As you prepare to head out, we would just ask if you could get all
But when's your
cups and
birthday?
plates and everything to a trash can.
December.
We appreciate
Your
that.
past
And one last thing, on June 6th, we're aiming to have our next men's breakfast, so get that on your calendar. We'll be back hopefully to interview that day. Thank you for coming, guys. Have a great rest of your day, and we will see you next time.
March 10. You're out. I'm out. You're out.